Thanks so much for joining us for CBN News Today. I'm Ephraim Graham. Another round of severe weather for the nation's heartland. Violent storms are expected throughout the day, generating high winds, heavy rains, and even dangerous hail. Caitlin Burke reports.
After one of the harshest winters on record, spring is bringing unusually warm weather, and along with it, some dangerous storms. Severe weather is expected today from Minnesota to Texas, the worst of the storms hitting through the afternoon into the evening. Forecasters warn that in some areas, multiple severe storms are expected, so residents should stay alert even after the first round has passed. Wednesday, storms swept through Colorado, spawning at least 5 tornadoes, including this one, which was caught on camera near Akron. Other parts of Colorado saw wind gusts up to 70 miles an hour and golf ball-sized hail. Heavy winds near Wichita, Kansas are blamed for derailing this train.
I didn't know what to think. I was shocked that it was strong enough to blow the train cars. I mean, I come across, saw the snap power poles and the power lines down, but I didn't think it was strong enough to blow the train over until I looked down there and saw it laying on its side.
30 train cars were knocked off the tracks by the 90-mile-an-hour winds. In Salt Lake City, thunderstorms affected air travel, lightning bolts striking 8 planes as they were trying to land. This severe weather comes on the heels of a recent string of devastating tornadoes across the South. President Obama got a first-hand look at the devastation in Arkansas. 15 people were killed in that state alone.
When something like this happens to a wonderful community like this one, it happens to all of us.
The president promised the government will help the victims rebuild their communities. Caitlin Burke, CBN News.
House Republicans voted Wednesday to hold former IRS official Lois Lerner in contempt of Congress. Lerner has consistently refused to testify at committee hearings about her role in the IRS Tea Party controversy. The House is also calling on the Justice Department to appoint a special counsel to investigate the agency. Congress is split on the issue, with critics of the vote saying it's an attempt by the GOP to stir up controversy against Democrats during an election year. But House Speaker John Boehner says it is time to tell the American people the truth. The House is set to approve a select committee to investigate the deadly attack on the U.S. consulate in Benghazi, Libya. But House Democrats are considering boycotting the committee. They say the investigating panel should be made up of an even number from both parties. They've accused Republicans of, quote, extreme and counterproductive partisanship. Republicans say they should have more seats on the panel since they have more seats in the House. Another vicious terrorist attack in Nigeria. At least 120 people are dead after scores of gunmen opened fire on a busy marketplace near the border of Cameroon. Authorities suspect the radical Islamic group Boko Haram carried out the attack. Some say as many as 300 people died in the 12-hour massacre as the terrorists set fire to homes and shot those trying to escape. Boko Haram triggered international outrage when it kidnapped more than 270 schoolgirls in mid-April. The U.S. and several countries are sending help in hopes of finding those girls. A federal appeals court rejected Notre Dame University's request for a new hearing over its challenge to the birth control mandate in Obamacare. The Catholic University says it is being forced to violate its religious beliefs by providing contraceptive coverage for students and employees. A lower court previously denied the school's request for a temporary injunction. Meanwhile, a federal judge in Wyoming is weighing the same issue. The Catholic diocese there presented arguments in court Wednesday against the birth control mandate. Well, CBN News first reported this next story back in February of 2010. Thousands of babies potentially killed over 30 years by a late-term abortion doctor in Philadelphia. Critics say his crimes were hidden by a continuous campaign of censorship, making it one of the most important stories never told. John Jessup introduces us to two people who are trying to bring that untold story to light.
For years, the sign on this building read Women's Medical Society. But after learning what was going on inside, it became known as a house of horrors. The abortion clinic owner and practitioner, Dr. Kermit Gosnell, is now serving 3 life sentences for killing babies that were born alive. Last May, a Philadelphia jury also found him guilty of killing a 41-year-old woman in a botched abortion.
A year after the guilty conviction, it's here in Los Angeles, the other side of the country, where the next chapter of the story is unfolding. Independent filmmakers Anne McElhaney and her husband Philip McAleer have made it their mission to make a movie exposing the truth about Kermit Gosnell.
I think this is the biggest serial killer in American history, and Americans need to know what was done and how it happened and how he was allowed to go on killing for 40 years.
McAleer and his wife plan to bring the story to the small screen sometime next year. But first, they need to raise enough money. They've launched a crowdfunding campaign on Indiegogo, a site that pulls individual donations to help get creative projects off the ground. So far, they've raised about 90% of their $2.1 million goal.
We feel an enormous responsibility now to tell this story well and to do it right. So we are very worried we're not going to meet the total. We're very exhausted because we're working so hard.
But then every day something happens that makes us think, oh my God, this is extraordinary. Like last week, we had a man who tweeted out a photograph of his just born granddaughter and said to celebrate her birth on that day, he sent us $100.
They view each donation as a vote, voicing opposition to what they call media censorship, noting the big network's refusal to cover the Gosnell story in favor of the Jodi Arias trial. The filmmakers say the censoring campaign continued when Kickstarter, their original choice for funding, asked them to make some changes.
So Kickstarter were just continuing in that grand tradition of censoring this story, of making sure that the light, the antiseptic light of truth, would never ever penetrate this Philadelphia abortion clinic where these children were murdered, thousands of them. And to this day, they are unremembered. We're going to change all that.
They've taken their crusade to the conservative media, and their efforts are getting some help from major Hollywood backers like Kevin Sorbo, the star of the recent film God's Not Dead.
We'd like to ask you to help our friends Anne McElhaney and Philip McAleer to make a film about Kermit Gosnell.
If the media won't do their job, then we can do it ourselves.
They're celebrities, they're Hollywood people. As you know, Kevin has just had this very successful movie. And, you know, we just went and we asked them, and they didn't hesitate for a second, not for a millisecond. They said, we're in.
No strangers to tackling controversy, they believe this film will have the power to change the abortion debate in America. But they say that won't happen if they fail to meet their goal.
Then all the money goes back to the people. The money goes straight back to their credit card. But the film doesn't get made, and Kermit Gosnell's name then fades into obscurity. His crimes fade into obscurity.
And all the people who don't want the story to be known win.
And his victims are never remembered.
Something they vow not to let happen. John Jessup, CBN News, Los Angeles.
Russia's president appears to be softening his confrontation with the West and decreasing his country's interference in Ukraine. Wednesday, Vladimir Putin declared his troops have pulled back from the Ukrainian border, and he's now calling for a delay of Sunday's referendum on autonomy in eastern Ukraine. It is not clear if referendum organizers will follow Putin's request, but recent polls show most Ukrainians want their country to remain a single unified state, even in the largely Russian-speaking East. More than 175 American Christian leaders signed a pledge of solidarity, supporting persecuted Christians in other parts of the world. Evangelical and Orthodox Christian leaders came together at the nation's capital for the event. Catholic Cardinal Donald Wuerl says the church cannot be silent, especially while some of Christianity's oldest communities are driven into exile or even extinction. They specifically mentioned Christians in Egypt, Iraq, and Syria. Citizens of Rialto, California blasted their local school board last night over an assignment telling students to decide if the Holocaust really happened. Eighth graders were asked to write an essay about whether the Holocaust was an historical event or a political scheme or propaganda tool. The San Bernardino Sun reports last week the Anti-Defamation League complained to the school board superintendent, Mohammed Z. Islam, but the district then defended the assignment. After angry citizens confronted the board Wednesday, they are finally condemning that assignment. Coming up, the thought police are coming. Why intolerant left-wingers could target conservative speech right here in America.
Millions of Americans with an ostomy live their lives to the fullest every day. And over the last 10 years, thousands have chosen Liberator Medical as their caring and reliable resource for ostomy supplies. Liberator Medical is a nationally accredited Medicare, Medicaid, and insurance provider, so we can handle all your Medicare, Medicaid, and insurance paperwork and billing. And Liberator Medical has been chosen as a preferred supplier by all the leading ostomy manufacturers, including Coloplast, Hollister, Convatec, and Generics. We supply all these leading ostomy brands so you can always get the ostomy supplies and accessories you want and trust. And all of our ostomy care specialists are product certified by the manufacturers. Shipping is free and discreetly delivered right to your door. Unhappy with your present ostomy supplier? Call Liberator Medical and ask about our free ostomy sampling program. We also offer catheters and urological supplies.
Call 1-800-513-3076. That's 1-800-513-3076.
Pat Boone here with some good news you can trust. Today, our faith, families, and our freedoms are under attack. Polls say 2 out of 3 Americans no longer trust government. A stalled economy, weakening dollar, and politicians willing to steal money from our children to waste on unfixable problems. So, whom can you trust? Well, our money still says in God we trust. But do we? Or have we quietly allowed the things we hold sacred to be stolen by the enemies of traditional values? Today, our government spends almost twice its income, running up a tab for future generations into the hundreds of trillions. How can you stop this from happening to your family? Well, it's all covered in a fantastic new book, The Great Withdrawal by Craig Smith and Dr. Lowell Ponte. Every American needs to read this book. Why don't you call now for a free copy of The Great Withdrawal? It's the simple truth you can trust.
HGTV is pulling the plug on the series Flip It Forward because the business owners live out their Christian values. The network has been filming Christian brothers David and Jason Benham, but after just 1 month, HGTV is ending production because of complaints about the Benhams' faith. The website Right Wing Watch labeled them anti-gay, anti-abortion extremists. CBN News profiled the brothers' business back in 2012.
We started building out what we envisioned that a kingdom business should look like, and we didn't read any books by anybody, nothing. Everything was fresh, and God exploded our business because we wanted to glorify Him.
The decision stirred a firestorm on HGTV's social media platforms, with some people applauding the decision and others criticizing the network for intolerance. The Benhams released a statement saying, "If our faith costs us a television show, then so be it." Liberals often talk about tolerance, but many on the left don't want to be tolerant of people or ideas they disagree with. Dale Hurd reports that's leading to the end of freedom of speech in Europe. Some wonder, could America be next?
The head of Mozilla, maker of the Firefox browser, forced to step down because several years ago he was against gay marriage. Brandeis University withdrew an honorary degree to Hirsi Ali, an internationally acclaimed champion of women's rights and a victim of female genital mutilation, because her opposition to Islam was deemed offensive. Free speech is being hounded, demonized, and shouted down by what some call a new left-wing fascism that will not tolerate any views it doesn't like. And if you want a glimpse into how bad it could become in America in the future, look to Europe. In North Korea, they would just shoot you. But in Europe, they brand you a racist. And then you're effectively shunned and blocked from the media. And in most cases, the general public never hears your views. But we're not even talking about real racism. If you're against radical Islam or against immigration, you can be labeled a racist. Wave your nation's flag too much and you're a fascist. Take American conservative values of God, country, and traditional family to Western Europe, and you'd be branded extreme right, anti-woman, homophobic, and even Nazi. And should you be brave enough to actually demonstrate publicly for a conservative cause, you could be physically attacked. Or in Sweden, your home might be wrecked.
You could get beaten up. We see that in Sweden, by the way.
Danish journalist Lars Hedegaard publishes the Scandinavian online newspaper Dispatch International, along with Swedish journalist Ingrid Carlquist.
You have these so-called anti-fascists coming to known sort of right-wingers' homes and wrecking their apartment. Destroy the furniture, the pictures, tear up the books, and, general destruction. And then they make a video of it and put it out on the web. See what we did to this guy.
Under the banner of fighting racism, left-wing radicals terrorize those who dare to speak out against multiculturalism. Kim Mueller is considered the leading expert on the extreme violent left groups in Denmark.
Today they call them
anti-racist or fight for a better environment, a more humane society, and so on. But the goal is to smash the democracy as we know it.
It looks like that they're against fascism, but you said they're really against parliamentary democracy.
Yeah, they're revolutionary communists. When you talk about revolution in Denmark, people will say crazy. But when we talk about it, when you say you fight racism, suddenly everybody is opposed to racism.
Throughout Western Europe, those who hold to American-style conservative values are the outsiders. Freedom of speech, which is supposed to mean the right to say things the majority doesn't like, is gone in most of Europe, including Britain, according to George Igler of the Discourse Institute in London.
No, Britain is not a country that has free speech. Britain is increasingly not a country that has the rule of law. We have populations who believe that they still have free speech. And then they do something, they just literally tweet something that a politician doesn't like, and a knock comes on the door. And they realize they don't live in the same kind of democracy that they thought they lived in.
Last week in Britain, Liberty Party candidate Paul Weston was arrested for simply publicly repeating the words of Winston Churchill, in which Churchill referred to the curses of Islam. It's a similar situation in France, where libertarian publisher Jean Robin described how the government and the media work to control information and what viewpoints people will see.
You can't really say it's a democracy with free media and a competition. It's an oligarchy. It's not a democracy anymore.
There are still conservative Europeans, and most of them cope by simply not expressing their opinions publicly.
Americans who look at Europe idealistically just don't have a clue.
Christopher Doss trains grassroots political activist for the Leadership Institute near Washington, but he studied at the University of Oslo in Norway and still works in European politics. He says America risks going the way of Europe, especially because most of our universities are training young people to be intolerant.
We're heading in the same direction as we unlearn liberty. As students go through 4 years or more of university college indoctrination, they become inculcated with the notion that all speech shouldn't be allowed.
And if this new fascism is not turned back, life for conservatives in America could become more of a challenge, as it already is for many conservatives in Europe. Dale Hurd, CBN News, Copenhagen.
Next, evangelist Judge Sheet shares the one simple thing you can do to add years to your life.
Attention sleep apnea patients. Are you tired of the expense and hassle of getting your CPAP and BiPAP supplies? Are you fed up with dealing with ill-fitting, leaking, or worn-out masks and straps? Are you worried about the effects that unsanitary tubes, cushions, and filters have on your health? If you said yes to any of these questions, Allied Medical Supply Network has the solution to your problems. You could qualify to have your supplies regularly delivered right to your door at little or no cost to you. That's right, no more inconvenience, no worn-out masks and straps, no more unsanitary equipment, just restful sleep. Call Allied Medical Supply Network today to determine if you may qualify to receive your fresh, brand-name supplies at little or no cost. Don't delay. Call us now to see if you are eligible to save money on regular delivery of your CPAP and BiPAP supplies. Call 1-800-815-9947. That's 1-800-815-9947. Or go to cpapsupplyhelpline.com.
Announcing an important breakthrough in healthcare that can benefit everyone. If you or anyone you love needs affordable health insurance, regardless of a pre-existing medical condition, call Quick Insurance 123 today and get the immediate relief you deserve. Quick Insurance 123 was created to provide affordable health insurance to all uninsured Americans, with or without pre-existing conditions. This is not a discount card. This is a real insurance program that lets you choose from many affordable health plans, with access to doctors, hospitals, emergency services, and more. So call the number on your screen now and get the health coverage you need just for calling. As a special bonus, we'll send you a free prescription savings card that could save you up to 85% on your prescriptions. That's right, you could save up to 85% on your prescriptions just for calling. Call Quick Insurance 123 to find out how you can get affordable health insurance and receive your free prescription savings card just for calling. Don't wait. Getting a free quote is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Call today.
How bad is depression? According to one study, people who were parentally depressed saw increased health risks that were equivalent to a non-smoker taking up to a pack-a-day habit. Essentially, depression is a death sentence, but fortunately, there is hope.
Life can be stressful. Whether you're facing a sudden illness, loss of a job, or the strain of a relationship, sometimes you just feel like giving up. Dutch Sheets is an internationally recognized pastor and author. His book, The Power of Hope, is a practical guide that will help you rise above life's disappointments and troubles.
Charlene Aaron recently spoke with pastor and author Dutch Sheets about his book. It is a practical guide to help you through life's disappointments and troubles. Charlene asked him about the proverb that says, "Hope deferred makes the heart sick."
Our emotional and spiritual heart is much like a physical heart. If you have heart disease, if the arteries start getting clogged, you can't breathe as well. You lose your life source. You lose your energy. You can't run. And I tell people it's the same way with a spiritual heart, with your emotional heart. If you have hope deferred, which causes a diseased heart spiritually, you can't run life's race. You don't believe. You struggle to dream. You struggle to believe. You can't even have faith. It's hope. Hope is what starts the process of faith. So you just lose the ability to live. You just exist. You don't really live.
You also say there's a time to grieve and there's a time to hope. How do you know when it's the right time for those attitudes?
Well, you know, I think you have to have help for one thing, but the Bible does talk about grieving God's way. We are not those who grieve as the world grieves. So we do grieve. God made us in a way that we have to release painful emotions. We are emotional people. There's nothing wrong with being an emotional person. It's just that we have to let those emotions bless us, not control us. I tell people when they're trying to find God's will, don't you dare listen to your emotions. They're not made to guide you. They're made to make life exciting and meaningful and make us human. So when we're experiencing the loss of a setback or a loved one or the bankruptcy or the prayer that wasn't answered, that's a time to regroup. It's a time to say, okay, Lord, you're going to help me grieve through this process appropriately, but I'm going to make sure I surround myself with the right people and the right information, that being the scriptures and my connection with the Lord, because you're going to lead me not only through this, you're going to lead me out of this. And you're going to show me when it's time to start dreaming again.
Why do you think it's so easy for people to lose hope?
Well, it's different for every person. Some people, you know, they can go through almost anything. You know, we just looked at a display of Corrie ten Boom. You know, how do you go through what she went through in a prison camp and come out of it with faith? But some of that's because of the way you were trained as a young person. You know, there are people that have so had a faith in God put in them. It's almost like you couldn't steal their hope. But again, there are others that, hey, you know, who knows what they walk through? Their background, the rape, the abuse. They weren't taught about God growing up. We're all different. And some of us are more emotional. God created us more emotional. He needs some people to be fireballs and they're going to be more emotional. He needs other people to be more staid and thinkers. And if you're that emotional person, you're gonna be jarred a little more easily, and your hope is going to be shattered. So we just have to know ourselves. We have to stay connected to the Lord and the right people, so that when the hope is set back somewhat, we don't let a process begin that erodes the heart. We don't let cynicism come in. We don't let fear come in. We stop that process and say, no, I have an anchor in my soul, and it's the Lord Himself.
How do we regain hope in our personal lives and once we've lost it?
Well, it starts with a decision, and that may sound simple, but I tell the story in the book that my brother witnessed an open heart surgery. And when I say witnessed, I mean he was at the head of the patient when they opened the patient, worked on the heart, disconnected it. Then when they put everything back in place, they have to restart the heart, and they couldn't get it going. And he knew he'd watch this person essentially die. But when they had exhausted all of their ways of getting the heart pumping again, finally the head surgeon leaned over to the lady, obviously unconscious, and in her ear said, "Ma'am, I need your help. We can't get your heart to beat. Please tell your heart to beat again. And instantly her heart began to thump, thump. And he looked up at the doctors and the nurses around the table and just went, and they kept working on this. And my brother, he said, I've never forgotten it, because the Lord said to him, that's what you need to do when you've gone through a period of hope deferred, when you've lost that person, when you've lost that marriage, when that bankruptcy happened, when whatever, the economy, wars all around us, there comes a point in time when you're through that grieving process. You have to say to your spiritual heart and your emotional heart, you will beat again.
Amen.
And
Praise
here
God.
we go.
Thank God for you. Well, the book is called The Power of Hope. Dutch Sheets, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you every time you come.
Thank you. Pleasure. It's a real pleasure.
Do you have an idea for an invention or a new product? Brian and Alice Jagosh, the inventors of the halftime drill driver, did. They invented a power drill attachment that lets you drill, flip, and drive in seconds. Brian and Alice licensed their invention to the company that brought you the Snuggie, and it's now selling in major retailers nationwide. Look for the Invent Help K-band on the package. If you have an invention that you would like to try to patent and submit to companies for possible review and want free information on how Invent Help may be able to assist you, call now. Invent Help is America's largest inventor service company with sales offices in more than 60 cities nationwide. Call Invent Help today for free information. Our clients made a financial gain with their invention, but this is just their individual result. Brian and Alice's experience is not typical, as only a very small number of inventions are licensed or sold in stores.
For your free inventors information, call 1-800-559-8567. That's 1-800-559-8567.
If you had a choice between going bald and a full head of hair, which would you choose? Advances in medical science have resulted in the world's first and only permanent solution to hair loss.
Yes!
You wash it, you cut it. It's your own real, naturally growing hair. When it comes to hair restoration, no one in the world has more experience than Bosley. The results look completely natural and are affordable on nearly any budget. But the entire process can't be explained in 60 brief seconds. So to find out more about this clinically proven and permanent solution to hair loss, call now to receive your free no-obligation information kit. It'll answer all of your questions about hair loss and hair restoration. Plus, we'll also send you this $250 gift certificate just for calling. Every day you wait, you're losing more hair. So don't put it off any longer. You owe it to yourself to find out the facts. Choose hair. Choose Bosley.
Call 800-868-9957. That's 800-868-9957.
The president of Hobby Lobby wants to introduce Bible courses in thousands of public schools. Steve Green says he doesn't want to force Christianity on anyone, but he believes America is in danger because of its ignorance of God's word. The Mustang School District in Oklahoma City will be the first to include the elective course this fall. Green hopes to place the curriculum in thousands of schools by 2017. Well, that is going to do it for CBN News Today. We hope you join us right here next time. Make it a thankful Thursday, everybody.
Inside every child is a hero, a leader, a friend to others, someone who helps out, who does the right thing, who dreams of what they can be, but they still need our help.
What should I do? What should I say? How should I feel?
That's where Superbook comes in. It provides moral and spiritual truths through situations children can relate to, teaching God's Word to the children you love. Join the Superbook DVD Club and receive Superbook's newest episodes as they're available, plus 2 copies to share with others, all for your gift of only $25. Get Superbook today and watch the miracles happen.
Every day, people are connecting on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Now you can be part of the conversation and connect on topics you care about through 700 Club Interactive. Log on to Facebook, Twitter, or go to YouTube and share your opinions, your prayer requests, and your videos while making friends in our community.
Well, welcome to the show.
Join the conversation on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. 700 Club Interactive. Be a part of the show.